Yeah.
Hey everybody, I'm Renee Icasiano.
I'm Levy Baguin, and this is our little get-together.
It's our pilot for He Said, She Said.
He said, she said. Every one of us have our own perspective, and especially a woman's perspective and a man's perspective is quite different. But at the same time, we usually find commonality and connection through that.
Yeah.
So right now we're just gonna have
and it's good to have different perspectives, I think. When people are talking about a subject, it's not just one-sided, and everybody has their opinions. A lot of people have different knowledge bases, so it's great to have both perspectives, masculine, feminine, male, female, whatever that looks like. Honestly, it's because you're a feminine male, masculine, and I'm a masculine feminine.
Yeah, I'm a feminine mask, and I own that 100%. It's funny because, staying on that topic, usually when men are called feminine, it's definitely... it hits the ego with most men. When it comes to when they hear oh, you're a feminine man, and they're like, no, I'm not. It's that thing where they don't understand that there's a certain balance of femininity and masculinity, and it doesn't mean that you're less than or greater than any of that. It just is, Yeah.
I've been learning that, and I at first never liked the fact that I was considered a masculine feminine because I always want to be very feminine, and I learned that the masculinity wasn't necessarily me being butch or manly. It's a way of being, of making decisions and going and being strong-willed and independent and being a leader. Not saying that you're not a leader, because you're absolutely a leader. No. That's your masculine that does come out.
Yeah, it just depends on a certain situation. But for me, when it means to be a feminine masculine, it's I'm more nurturing. I tend to step back a little bit, listen more until I need to make a decision. And then that's when it's okay, I can straight on just make that decision, not based on any type of emotional connection, not a type of emotional, what's the word I'm looking for?
It's when, I have to agree that you are nurturing, and you're very, very much get all. It's kind of like gatherers,
Yeah.
You gather all the information before you make that hard decision.
Yeah.
Versus the masculine just
goes right to, this is it. This is what
very direct.
Yeah.
I'm making this decision whether I'm right or wrong.
Right. So that's.
Oh man.
But again, it's when some people, at least from my experience, especially when it comes to male perspective, when they hear the feminine side, they feel they're either less than, or they think that they're taking away, that they don't have any masculinity at all.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Gentlemen,
anything
that
like
is
that.
Not the truth.
Yeah. So own 100% of who you are, and honestly, it's if you I was raised with practically all women, so that's, I think, one of the main reasons why I'm a feminine mask, because it's I listen and understand, and I see how being around women makes people feel comfortable right away, and so I feel people feel comfortable around me when they start talking. So I guess I get that vibe.
Totally. That's such an eye-opener for me, because literally I was raised around mostly men.
Yeah.
I was one of 5 girls.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
In all of the grandchildren. My dad had all girls. He wanted all boys, and we were supposed to be boys. So he really wanted us to be strong like boys. And now I think about it, you being raised around all women and me being raised around a lot of men, it was one of those things where you just kind of, for me, I had to buck up and, you know, you don't cry. You had to be strong and go along with the punches.
Oh my God, I'm such a crier. Like the wind blows and I'm like, you know, like it's so beautiful. I
love that. I'm learning that now later in life, like those types of things, to stop and smell the flowers and really take in nature. I always enjoyed that, but at the same time, no, it was the who, what, when, where, like where are we going, what are we doing, who's involved, and those kinds of things, as to me being prepared for what kind of interactions I was going to have with people.
That's interesting. So it's like being around your brothers and your dad made you, I think, that in that perspective of consistently being, I have to be strong, I have to be like, you know, have my game face on, and like I can't show any type of weakness.
I have a very sturdy handshake. I'm prepared to be in direct conversation with whoever, and I'm direct, right to the point. And sometimes that can hurt people's feelings. Not that I mean to, but it is the way that I was raised. So it's interesting, as I'm growing and getting into like new chapters of my life, I'm learning to walk in femininity, walk in the grace. So it's just very interesting, because I never knew that for me it would take practice.
Yeah. Well, honestly, it took me a long time to accept my feminine side, because
interesting.
Because, you know, as a guy, as a male, especially in a heterosexual world, you know, it's like you can't be this emotional, you know, you can't be like fluid, or you can't be, I don't know. So I always felt like I had to pretend to be someone else.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. A lot of men do that.
Yeah. And especially when they're pointed out, it's like, oh, you're in a little feminine side. And it's like, especially when you're young, you don't understand what that means. And most of the time when a guy is called feminine, it's, you know, like trying to degrade them, you know, homophobia, and...
Like they use it as a derogatory term, or a slander, or a put down.
A put down, yeah. Like
that's not cool.
And which is crazy to me, because like, especially if they say, you know, like, oh, you're such a girl, and I was like, I think girls are pretty powerful, you know, like I think they're like so strong. So hey, they made us, you know.
But you know what's really interesting is, because like I see the world kind of flipping to where like men, like, how do I explain this? The women are starting to have to be so hard and so strong, and well, the world I come from, and so you see a lot of girls try to be that hardcore person, and you know, and then I kind of wonder, does that play a part into why sometimes women become I don't want to say necessarily lesbian, like a dyke, more like a more masculine lesbian, or become butch, you know? I used to think, I know I was a tomboy, for sure, but I just wonder if, you know, I used to think, you know, once upon a time, am I like more prone to girls liking me than guys liking me, because girls would sometimes hit on me, but that wasn't like what I wanted, you know. And I had wondered about that. I mean, just to kind of put that out there, I don't know why.
I think it has to do with just energy, you know. It's like, not only are you a beautiful woman, not right, but it's the energy that you give, it's the personality. And it's the same thing with me. Sometimes it's like, I mean, I like both guys and girls, so and right now I'm in a relationship with a guy, but for 13 years, so I haven't had the experience dating girls for that long, but I have been in both worlds. And you know, I think it's all about just connection. You know, who you really want.
That makes sense.
You know, who you really want to be connected to the strongest, and that's the most attractive thing on a person.
Yeah.
At least for me, you know.
I mean, I have once upon a time thought that I could totally treat that person, like treat her well and be good to her. But then I thought, I want a man. And not being able to have found at this point, like a strong man to lead me well, like who's strong in himself, you know, it makes me wonder.
Well, I mean, it's environmental, right? So why don't you talk about like, since you mentioned it's like where you came from, like, you know, what does that mean? Like, why being so masculine and so like stronger than most women important in your world?
Women were like weak. Okay, so not that they were weak. Okay, so we have women in our family, my grandmother, all the mothers, aunties and stuff. But it was where men were stronger, the women were weaker, and it was a thing to like not be weak. And so being weak meaning showing emotion, I guess. And even my grandmother, she was really strong. She was such a woman, but she really wouldn't show emotion. And I think it's because she had just a family of lots of boys. And so I don't know. It was growing up where women, I didn't have a lot of girlfriends. Being a tomboy, I would have mostly friends in the neighborhood were all mostly boys, and there's like only one other girl there. So I didn't see it as like that it suited me to be a feminine girl, I guess you could say, playing with Barbie dolls and whatnot. It wasn't until like my teenage years that I actually had Barbie dolls, and the only reason I had them was like to dress them. Like the one thing I did have them was dressing them, and I would like cut up old clothes that I had and make Barbie doll clothes.
Cute little clothes.
So yeah, I would style them,
adorable.
And they had little outfits, and I would design their whole outfits and stuff like that.
Fashionista.
But it wasn't to like pretend play and like have little tea parties and stuff.
Yeah.
So that was kind of interesting. I used to enjoy doing the whole like, let's pretend there's lava and we're jumping couch to couch, and
oh my god, I love that game.
Yeah, like we're out playing kickball, basketball, baseball, soccer, and neighborhood tag, and it was just a very active life. Not saying that girls can't be active, because there's tons of active women, but I just wasn't around women to allow for being in the emotion. There wasn't time, or I didn't have that experience to sit and talk about emotion.
I mean, I don't know. I was surrounded by women all the consistently. My grandmother raised me until I was 5, and then I was with my mom and my stepdad for a long time. But it's like the biggest people that really influenced me were women. Like my stepdad's side of the family, my great-grandmother, my grandmother.
So how did they influence you? Like, what was that like? Like, how did they influence you?
Well, the way they, the way they take care of the family, and consistently thinking of other people's needs rather than their own, which was really mind-blowing. So I think that's also like one of the biggest influence that I grew up with. But yeah, like the influence on women, it wasn't more about like talking about your feelings. It's just their action, the way they live their life. My grandmother was always in servitude of helping others, helping the family. My great-grandmother on my stepdad's side of the family, she would always crochet, cook something, food. If somebody was sick or had a brand new baby, she would crochet a blanket,
I crochet.
Yeah? Oh, really?
I learned from my mom, actually.
My grandmother taught me how to crochet when I was a kid. So
It's interesting. I taught my son how to crochet.
It's fine.
I taught my nieces and my nephews. Yep. And when they had to go back with their dad, they took all the yarn away from him and said he couldn't do that because boys were not supposed to crochet.
That's awful.
And they literally did not allow him to crochet, and he was good at it.
Oh, no.
And he was good at it. He's crafty, and I learned that that's a skill. That's like a craft.
No, it's a craft, yeah.
It is. And so
you can make so much, like, if he was given the freedom to, like, create and have been nurtured to that, who knows what
they told him that was for girls. So it's interesting. So when you're with your aunts, your grandmother, and you saw what they were doing, how did they involve you in such a way that would like cause you to nurture you in a way to be in the feminine energy? Like, how do you think that
I don't think it was like, it was more of just I don't think it was like, oh, this is or maybe too much for them.
It's like a way of life.
Yeah, it was just a way of life, just and it's like I think especially when it came to like my grandmothers and my aunt, they always felt like I was alone because I'm an only child. So it's like they wanted to make sure that I was taken care of, and because my mother was very harsh and wouldn't let me go play with other kids most of the time. So it's like I was always with them. So like that's how I learned how to cook. That's how I learned how to, do a lot of the housework and stuff like that. So I'm consistently like...
That makes so much sense because you are. I mean, you're absolutely amazing at like... cooking, because when you bring your lunch, you're like, yeah, I made this. You definitely, like, when there's multiple people around, you do always like kind of take in everybody's energy and what that is before like you like decide to make any big decisions, and you do kind of like say, okay, what is it that you need, or you're always kind of there for like whoever needs whatever. You're just like, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, it's mainly all about their action. It's what you see and what you do. So like the old saying, monkey see, monkey do kind of situation. So it's like what I saw within them, I incorporated. It's like because I loved that about them. That was one of the things that I really loved about them and admired about them. So that's how they affected me.
Interesting, because like in my world, everything was kind of like a me. The boys were always served first. Yeah. The boys were always served first. They got whatever they wanted. The girls, like if we wanted to play, if we wanted to go play sports, we couldn't play sports. It was only the boys got to go get put into the sports.
Wow.
And we weren't allowed to, say I want to join that team or something like that. It was not even thought of. And then, all the uncles got served first. It was whatever the boys wanted first. So being in that environment, it was kind of like, well, then I'm in competition for attention. Yeah. I'm in competition to be seen, to be heard. And I think that is kind of like a more masculine way of being, where it's like, hey, look at me, like a whole like alpha type.
Yeah, you had to deal with also siblings, like me, I didn't have to deal with siblings. So it's like the attention, it's funny because I never wanted attention.
Were there other cousins around though? Mm-mm. So you were the only child, truly.
I was truly the only child.
Okay, yeah.
So like none of my cousins, like my stepdad didn't have any like nieces or nephew growing up.
Oh, wow.
And
yeah, my grandmother's house was like a foster house, technically.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so my parents left with my youngest sister, and so 3 of us girls were there. They left us to our grandparents, and then my aunt, she came and dropped off her 3 boys, and then so they got left there with the grandparents, and then my uncle had 2 other boys who got left there, and then my grandparents actually adopted them legally, and so we had a house full of like children that were just left to the grandparents. And so
that's what my mom did.
And so all of us literally just we just lived there, and my grandparents literally took care of us. And even it is just really interesting how that just kind of happened. And so us three girls that were left there among the 5, and then another one came along, 6 boys. So yeah, 6 boys, 3 girls.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
that's definitely way much more than a Brady Bunch. I think that's also one of the main reasons why I'm so like independent, like strongly independent. Like I'm okay being alone.
And here I am, kind of codependent, super codependent, and it's like hard to be alone.
Yeah.
You see these upbringings, the ways of being, and the ways that people, their whole environments, and how they actually shape people. And when we get to learn who we are and what works for us, and then as you grow into like being a stronger, more aware, self-aware person. It's interesting how we as people have to reflect on that upbringing and what were the boxes that were put around us.
Yeah.
So I just really encourage you all to just, it's an ongoing journey, whatever that looks like, masculine, feminine, codependent, independent. Just to be self-aware about it, because I'm a super loving person. I think for the reason of like the whole codependency thing, just because I had a big family, that kind of brought in the nurturing part of me, where I actually do take care, like want to make sure everybody's okay, because there's a lot of people, and so I think that's where that piece comes in. So as much as codependency can be a bad thing, I don't think it's a bad thing.
Again, it's all perspective, right?
Right.
I think one of the key things ultimately is know and understand what you want and who you want to be, right? Because ultimately, I'm living my life, and no one else is going to live it for me, and you're going to live yours. So it's like, know exactly what you want and who do you want to become. That what the type of person that you want to be. The person that you admire the most is like, why do you admire them the most? It's like, is it their character? Is it their leadership? Is there, is it just their presence? It's like, and how do you embody that as a person? By being, just trying to discover who you are ultimately.
Yeah,
right?
and I have to go back to you talking about who do you admire, who do you look up to. I really encourage you all to look for a mentor in your life. If there isn't anybody you've had in your life that you felt that you could look up to, or even if you did, I strongly encourage you all to really keep those people and those attributes, characteristics like in the forefront, in what it is that you do strive to be. And if you don't have somebody like that, to really look for people in the world that have the attributes that you are partial to, because it doesn't have to be somebody that you grew up with. It could be somebody that you just completely admire, completely respect, somebody that you love their leadership, you love their work ethic, you love their integrity, their dignity, whatever that looks like. But if you resonate with it, I just find it's really important to always have a mentor, somebody in your life that, can help you see that there's always better.
I agree 100%, because I think, we learn by basically just copying one another, right? It's like
monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah. Again, going back to, just looking at what you admire, and it's like, oh, I'll do that because that looks good to me.
That person is successful, and I want to be successful like that.
Exactly.
That person is so like soft, like for me, a female, like, oh, she's so like soft and feminine. She carries herself well. I want to be like that.
Yeah. And then you explore, honestly, and then and you could continue to like keep what you would like, and then throw away what you don't like. It's like, okay, I did not like that, but ultimately, the thing that, going back to you saying, now that you're becoming aware of who you are and becoming aware of what the type of person you want to become, it's like the awareness is a key factor, and then finding a mentor. They don't even need to know that they're a mentor. They could be just like from a distance, like just to know and understand what it is or who they are being at that very moment that attracts you to them.
That just a person that, or even it could even be a group of people, you know, and how they just work well together. So, but it's very important to find a mentor, to just, when you're in your journey and in your growth, just know that we always have room to grow. And on a whole different topic, if somebody says that they're fine and they don't need to grow, that they're fine just the way they are, I say run. There is some information out there that suggests that somebody in that way of being could be more tend to be more towards like a narcissistic person, because as you know, there's always room to grow in the world, whether it's to be more successful as, you know, in love, in finance, in friendship, in just being a better human being in the world. And so if people are stunted and they don't feel that they need to grow, that's definitely a flag.
A huge red flag.
Yeah, you want to take a
because those are people who honestly, like, are lacking the the emotional intelligence.
Yeah, they don't want to take a look at themselves.
Yeah.
Like, it's like there's something about it that they just don't want to take a look within.
And most of the time it's based off of
Fear,
their own fears, you know, the fear of judgment, fear of, you know, like rejection, fear. So it's like...
Or being wrong. Like, sometimes people, they just... Yeah, those are like the lower worlds, the lower level of thinking, where they just, heaven forbid, their world gets shattered, and then they realize they have no identity, and you know, it can be scary for a lot of people. But for those who are willing to tread the unknown and learn about themselves,
those are the type of people that you want to be around with, you know, because then you both get to grow. You know, the people around you that are seeking the same thing, you elevate one another. Like you and I, that's how we got together. Honestly, it's like we continue to, because we're seeking to elevate ourselves within, and that's why we're like, I'm so attracted to you and your energy and being around you.
We have great conversations.
Yeah.
I can come and talk to you about anything.
Yeah, and she inspires me, and like
he inspires me.
Like, and she's basically like a muse in a sense, because like wherever, sometimes it's like something just comes up, and all of a sudden it's only because I'm having a conversation with you that this is coming up at this very moment.
Absolutely profound, like, wisdom just drops right into him. Like, it's like he's just like a conduit of source, and source just comes right through him, and I'm just like, that was just like what he will speak, and he's like, I don't even know where that came from. It's sometimes it's absolutely what not only just I need to hear, but what he would need to hear. And so it's really interesting of what we bring to the table, truly bring to the table, and are allowed to just lay it all out there and really discuss it, really talk about it in the open, and see where it goes, because it's
and not be afraid of it. The thing is to never be afraid of what comes up, you know, and to never label it as like, oh, maybe that was wrong, or you know, just acknowledgement.
And it's not right or wrong, good or bad. It is. And that's one thing that Levy and I have come to an understanding when we have our discussions, that okay, when we just open up for the conversation of, okay, let's look at this, let's kind of dissect it, let's see where is this coming from, and what is it open, and you ask really good questions about like where things come from. And one thing that I do love that he consistently says is, come from a place of love. Everything, you know, if you come from a place of love, you can never go wrong. And so I truly like to pair that with, like, when I'm feeling something, thinking something, like, where is it coming from?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, thank you for bringing that back up, because that is always helpful for me. It reminds me consistently when I tell myself that, it's like, come from a place of love, because nothing wrong ever comes from when it's love. Because, and especially if you're, you know, a believer of God or a higher power or whatever it is, it's like, you know, what's so bad about it? Nothing.
It's the highest place. It's the highest place you can come from. God is love, and the whole purpose of us is to be that essence and to put that into the world. So
before we
head
out, may I share something?
Absolutely. Yes, please do.
So this is something I wrote, and at the time I was still searching and trying to find my voice. So here it is. In my mind, I see a distant figure staring back at me. I shout out loud, "Who are you? Why can't I see you? Why can't I hear you?" These are the questions I ask myself as to find the purpose of my existence. Who are you, if not the person of your own creation, the image that God himself deemed perfection?
Oh.
So why do you shy away from the greatness inside? If perfected by God and the divine, only goodness can come from deep inside.
So true. That is so true.
Fear is what brings us sorrow. Guilt is what brings us pain. Not acknowledging your perfection can lead to a lonely plain. Why can't I see you? The vision you create is the world you manifest it to be. Dream big dreams, and you will see it will take you where you need to be. You're never the same person as you used to be. It is a choice to become different of how you want to be. It is our souls of duality.
Ooh, our souls of duality.
How to blend the two into one is to accept the things as of what they are, and understand what you want to become.
I think that's amazing. The duality.
Yeah.
And we all have that duality, and that's kind of what we started off with.
Yeah.
Was the duality.
It was just the duality.
The balance
so that
of the
this is a perfect.
I love it. Well, I hope you guys get something out of this conversation that we've had, and just sharing some of our past, and maybe you might resonate with it. But we just wanted to share a little pilot with you of He Said, She Said, and just let you know, like, these are the kind of conversations we have.
Yeah, this is exactly what we are looking forward to continuing to create, honestly.
Yeah.
I love it.
See you later, guys.
Bye for now.